Hey, come on. There you go. Hey, everybody. I'm Dell Cullum, and this is my little girl, Annie. We want to welcome you to another episode. This one's going to be really special. We've been anxious to show it to you. This is an animal that I spend a lot of time photographing here locally. Not only because it's one of my favorite species of wildlife, but also the area that it has chosen to habitate in is also one of my favorite areas of East Hampton town, and it would be in the village of Amagansett, and it would be Lazy Point. And without getting any further, let's start the episode. I know you're really going to enjoy this one. Right, Annie? All right, baby, let's go. All right, let's go, everybody. Welcome, everybody, to another great episode of Imagination Nature. I'm here with my guest this episode, David Ells from Lazy Point here, and we're going to talk about ospreys. Ospreys have a special place here, especially in East Amagansett and Lazy Point and along that pig stretch, and all the waterways actually. But they're such a beautiful bird, and we love them here in Lazy Point. They build some beautiful nests. David knows a lot more about these birds than I do, and I'd like to have him talk to you a little bit about it. Thanks, David, for joining me.
Thanks, Dell, and good morning. Here in Lazy Point we have 4 nesting pairs of ospreys, and they're amazing birds. They travel an amazing distance when they migrate in the winter down to South America, and they come back here every year. What's really great is we have the same pairs come back. They mate for life, they come back to the same nest. The next generations end up taking over the nest in years to come. And when I was growing up here in Lazy Point, the ospreys were kind of a rare sight. Back then there was a pesticide called DDT that was sprayed, and it made their shells thin and brittle, and they didn't reproduce at a natural rate. They since banned DDT, and the ospreys have made an amazing comeback. They've built these osprey nests, these poles here. They used to nest in tall trees. A lot of those trees were cut down, and they would nest in the telephone poles, but that was dangerous with the electric wires, so some groups got together and put up some poles, some nests for them in the marsh and in the good locations for them. And they've been protected, and they've been nurtured as far as preserved habitat, which is an important thing out here on the East End. We've got a lot of lands that have been preserved from development.
This is one of those perches that they sit on out here in the. Is this a salt marsh?
Yes, this is a salt marsh, a brackish marsh, a salt marsh, and these marshes are just so important to the ecosystem out here. They filter the water, they're nurseries for so many different fish species. A lot of the fish that everybody goes out in the ocean and catches, they all actually grow up here in these little salt marshes.
There's so much wildlife here in these salt marshes. In fact, we're going to do a completely different episode on all the shorebirds around here, which is going to really be hard to cram all that into a half hour. But meanwhile, David, I wanted to ask you, why do you think the ospreys use this area? I know, like, the snowy owls use our shorelines and areas that are dune areas like this in the wintertime here, because it resembles the tundra for them, the Arctic tundra landscape up north that they use during our summer period.
Well, the snowy owls, being birds of prey, come here because not just because it resembles their tundra, but because the wildlife is similar, and they can use the same hunting habits that they do up on the tundra. Same for the ospreys, they're fisher hawks. They come here because of the inland waterways. These are the spawning grounds for larger fish out in the ocean. We have very healthy. In fact, Napeague Harbor here in Lazy Point is the healthiest body of water in New York. It's the only body of water that is never shut down for shellfishing due to pollution at any point. Most bodies of water, after it rains, there will be a period of a couple days before you can go and harvest any shellfish. That never happens here in Napeague Harbor. It's their hunting habits or their fishing habits and the type of fish that they is their prey. And we have very healthy ecosystem out here. Because Lazy Point has been held back from overdevelopment is the reason that it's so healthy and not polluted.
I have one more very important question that I must ask you. Being a photographer, a wildlife photographer here, I often come here because of the abundance of wildlife. Everything from foxes to the shorebirds to the osprey. It's all right here. Yet I saw something not too long ago that was quite disturbing, and I must ask you about it. Our shoot was interrupted by a helicopter that was spraying a chemical all throughout the salt marshes, and it really disturbed the osprey, and for good reason, because as the pictures indicate, they were spraying very close, if not over and definitely around this osprey nest that absolutely has a chick in it. We've seen that. And as you can tell from these pictures and the video, is quite disturbing. How is this possible? And what are we looking at here?
They do spray chemical in the marsh. They're spraying for mosquitoes. They use a helicopter to apply it, and as you witness, they fly very low to the ground, sometimes 50 feet off the ground, over the salt marsh. The intention there is to apply directly to the marsh and not have a lot of overspray over other areas. In my opinion, it's not really a good thing. It's kind of, some people feel it's a necessary evil to spray for the mosquitoes, but I just don't see any point in putting some other kind of poison in the environment and waiting years to find out what effect that's having until perhaps that chemical becomes banned too.
Absolutely, absolutely. Very good point. And it really saddened me to know, for somebody like myself who's traveled around the country going to natural parks and observing wildlife and enjoying the nature and the differences in our country alone, you see so much of animal protection. And then to come to a state land, which is also a protected land for wildlife, and then to see them blatantly not protecting wildlife, in fact, harming it, of course, not directly, but quite frankly, almost directly. I mean, some may even argue me saying that. I just say it because I don't want to come down without knowing more information. But quite frankly, to me, it seems quite directly.
Yeah, I just feel intuitively that spraying chemicals in a highly sensitive wetland and salt marsh has to have some kind of a negative effect. So, and like you said, these are protected state lands. Wetlands being the most protected category of land, it's a very disturbing thing to see that happen. And government's a little arbitrary in how they act and follow their own rules.
And that's why I asked you, David, to be here, because I knew that you had this knowledge, and I wanted you to share it with both me and my audience, because it's important stuff to know. All education about the safety of our environment, whether it be trash, which we often discuss, or I often discuss, or what we just discussed today, is a very serious issue. And when it affects wildlife, it becomes even more serious, rather than it affecting human life. Now it's affecting all life. And I think that is an important topic to be discussed by everybody. So on the subject of methoprene, we're asking, what exactly is it? So I've asked Deb Klugers to give me a call, and there she is now. Hold on one second. Hi, Deb. I'd like to ask you, what exactly is methoprene?
Sure, Dell, I can tell you about methoprene. Thank you very much for calling and bringing light to this really important subject. Methoprene is not only sprayed on our Napeg salt marshes, it's also sprayed in Accabonac Harbor. Methoprene is an insect growth regulator. It's a biochemical pesticide, and what it does is it stops the target organism, the mosquito larva, from turning into an adult. Now, that may sound like it's not that big of a deal, but there are other organisms that are not being targeted that are affected by this chemical. Now, people can say that it's not toxic, but yet it kills things. So you can't convince me and many other people this is a safe chemical to be using in our salt marshes. It's highly toxic to estuarine invertebrates, including species like crabs and lobsters, who share very similar life history traits to the target organism of the mosquitoes. It's also toxic to fish, perhaps affecting clams and other species. The fishermen don't like it. The East Hampton and Southampton trustees don't like it. Many environmental groups don't like it. You know, the county comes and they spray, and they're not, in my opinion, doing a great job of letting the public know, because I think the county caught you by surprise, Dell, when you were down in Napeg and you were wondering, what is this helicopter doing? And I've heard numerous complaints of people that have been sprayed, and it's really not a good thing. And the county does advise. So if this chemical is not harmful, why are there advisories?
Well, that's a great question. And thank you, Deb. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for doing all this. It's great public awareness.
Well, thank you, Deb, and I appreciate your explanation on this chemical, methoprene. These nests are made of like branches, like big pieces of branch material that make up an osprey nest. And meanwhile, all these songbirds and little birds are going in and out. And I was asking David about it, and I want him to explain kind of what that is.
Well, Dell, these osprey nests are a lot larger than you would think they are. You know, we're looking at them from a distance, but if you were up close, you would see how large they are. Sometimes these nests have been here for 10 years or more, and the ospreys have just been building on them year after year, so you get a really kind of a tall, stacked effect. And the smaller birds, they're kind of using this large nest as a protected area, because ospreys are kind of like their bodyguards. They keep them safe from predators. They give them a great place to nest up high, away from the predators, and gives them this protected nest. And they have a really kind of a symbiotic relationship. The little birds and the big ospreys.
That's really interesting, because that's exactly what it looks like as they dart in and out. It's almost like they have the inner holes, and the ospreys are on the outside guarding those little birds. And I can just imagine thinking about if the little birds are nesting in there, that there would be little baby birds inside that nest below the osprey chicks. I mean, the whole thought of that just amazes me. But doesn't nature always amaze us? It does.
It does, absolutely. Little aerial community there in one nest.
That's just absolutely amazing. Well, thanks, David.
All right, thank you, Dell.
Thanks a lot, buddy.
Thank you,
I appreciate it. All right.
There are ospreys at the other end, but of course they're flying around now, the young. They're not nest bound anymore. They're learning to fish themselves at this late stage in August. What, they're huge? It looks like something prehistoric from the time of the dinosaurs.
They've about 6 foot wingspan.
Yes, even 7 or 8. This is something, isn't it? There you see a lovely osprey's nest, a classic nest on that low twig. Can you see it? Right there. We had 380 nests back in the 1930s. Nowhere else was there such a concentration of osprey nests on this planet. There are 30 active nests on the island this year, 1978. There were 28 babies fledged as of the last count I had from Paul Spitzer, who was a young man who was getting his doctorate really on the ospreys, and largely on this island. And he told me that they are coming back slowly. We put the bans every year on the ospreys. And ornithologists have found Gardiner's Island ospreys in the Amazon. Nobody knew before this systematic banding that the osprey migration went that far in the winter to Brazil.
What makes ospreys different than other hawks is they have a reversible outer toe. So they can actually bring their 2 toes behind, 2 toes in the front, which allows them to grasp things much like a crane bucket. It's quite interesting and very unique among accipiters. Now, when a osprey catches a fish is slippery. Their pads on their feet have barb that allows it to grip the slippery fish better. And you'll also notice that when you see ospreys carrying their fish from the catch back to the nest, the fish will usually be lined up with the face facing forward and the tail back, much as you'll see in this picture right here, as if the fish is flying below. This is absolutely what it looks like. It's for the more aerodynamic flight when carrying fish. Usually the fish are small. An osprey has been recorded carrying a fish. The largest, I think, was 2.3 pounds. And you'll also notice that the ospreys prefer to catch their fish in shallow waters. Deeper waters only if the fish are schooling towards or spawning towards the surface in large schools. Otherwise, they're going to stick to shallower waters. The reason is they get high above the surface of the water. Once they spot something, they come down like an arrow head first. But at the last minute, they actually turn and go through the water feet first. And they can't go more than 3 feet down. Actually, that's not very deep. The osprey is the only hawk on the continent that eats almost exclusively live fish. In North America, more than 80 species of live, fresh, and saltwater fish account for 99% of the osprey's diet. Ospreys can log in about 160,000 miles worth of migration travel in a lifetime, and their lifetime is about 15 to 20 years. In 2008, in a span of 13 days, one osprey traveled 2,700 miles from Martha's Vineyard, Massachusetts to French Guiana, South America. This was recorded by a device that was strapped to the back of an osprey. That was pretty amazing. trash is an issue I bring up a lot. It's a common problem worldwide, but here on the end of eastern Long Island, where we're surrounded by water on 3 sides, it seems like a simple problem to solve. I feel our best weapon against litter in our community is education. And who better to share this education with but to our youth? Our youth is the group of people in the generation that is going to be responsible to keep this place clean as we progress through life. So people come here because of the beauty in East Hampton. They wouldn't come here if it was ugly. Trash is ugly. It's not beautiful. And we need to keep the trash out of our parks, off our beaches, and our roadsides. And it's everybody's responsibility, and it's a moral obligation to not only pick up litter and take out what you personally bring in, but to educate our youth and educate each other as often as we can, but our youth in particular. Good example. We have problems with balloons here. Of course, we all grew up. Balloons were fine. What could possibly be wrong with balloons? They represent party and celebration and everything good. Well, in fact, they represent death to marine mammals and shorebirds. Anything that it could be entangled in the ribbons that these balloons carry. A balloon in the water, once deflated from the helium that brings it up into the sky, it resembles a jellyfish. And marine mammals, such as sea turtles, eat jellyfish. They get entangled in this. They ingest the rubber or the mylar, and they get entangled in the ribbons of the balloon. And no longer are these things representations of parties and festivities. It represents nothing good. So, I ask everyone to be more aware of these issues, and I ask that you help educate our youth. Now, our youth. It's very important that we listen to our youth to see how they feel, see how they are preparing to take on this task of keeping our town clean. This is not an easy task to undertake. It's a very difficult one. If it was easy, us adults could be doing it properly. But in fact, I believe it is an easy problem to deal with. Everyone should take out what they bring in. Anyone sees litter on the ground, they should pick it up. It doesn't have to be theirs, it could be anybody's. If you pick it up, then you're doing the right thing. If a child sees you doing this, maybe they'll do it too, and maybe people will catch on. But meanwhile, listen to one of my good friends, 9-year-old Gabriel Hissler, as he talks to you a little bit about his feelings on trash.
Hi, I'm Gabriel, and I am 9 years old, and I live in East Hampton, New York. And I need to talk to you about the issue of garbage. There's too much being made. You shouldn't throw garbage on the floor. You should throw your garbage in a garbage can or dumpster, wherever you are. If there's a garbage can, you have to throw it in the garbage can. Don't litter, because something bad will happen. And if you see a recycling sign, you should recycle. You should put paper, plastic, metal, and glass in a recycling can. And even other things you can recycle. You can recycle electronics, metal, and much more.
Okay, when people see trash on the ground, and it's not their trash, so why should they have to pick it up if it's not their trash, Gabriel?
Because it's the right thing to do. The wrong thing to do would be leave it. You should pick your garbage up. And if you're on a job site, you put all your garbage in a dumpster. Don't throw it around. And tarp your dumpster after every day on the job.
You know what else? I always say that people should check the backs of their pickups even. Every morning before they take off in the morning, check the back of your pickup and make sure there's no garbage in the back that could be
fly
loose
out.
enough to fly out when you're going down the main highway.
Exactly, and if you have any garbage in your car that might be flying out the window, then you have to take all that garbage out and throw it in a garbage can, not on the floor. Like this, I found a bottle cap. You should throw it in the right place.
That's right, because even the smallest garbage is the most dangerous garbage
Exactly.
to wildlife anyway, right?
Exactly. And that is a pretty big problem for animals, us, and there's only one Earth. So if we keep making garbage, then that's a big problem. That's a very big problem.
You hit all the good points, Gabriel. If you had a message, one message that you could tell everybody, if they said, Gabriel, what's the one thing you want to contribute in words to the people on Earth about the trash issue to help make this Earth a better place, what would you say?
Recycle, reduce, reuse, and recycle. Those are the 3 R's, and you should do that.
Excellent. Excellent. Well, you did a good job, buddy.
And I just want to invite everybody to the Sustainability Fair on August 16th at Miss Amelia's Cottage in Amagansett, held by ECAN, that's East End Climate Action Network, and sponsored by Rely Renewable Long Island.